Welcome to the Purpose Your Mom Show, episode 489. I'm so excited about today's conversation. I've had a couple guests here in the past few months, which we typically haven't done, but selfishly, I'm like, this is a great topic when it comes across my inbox, and this is all about millennials and menopause. I am in my perimenopause era. I will talk about it with anyone who will listen to me. And Lauren Tentenbaum is our author today, coming to give us all the tips to dispel the myths, to normalize the conversation, and to help us out. She is a licensed clinical social worker, a women rights advocate, and she is a writer who wants to empower women through these life transitions. Her book, Millennial Menopause, came out in July, so you can go grab it in the Purpose of Your Mom Club. We will be reading it next year as one of our book club books so that we can, no matter what age well. We deserve to feel good. I went to my doctor for my annual physical in August and I had a list and I said, these are all the things that I'm struggling with right now. I know it's aging. I know it's perimenopause. I want to do it well. And she said, great, let's make a plan. And here we are. I hope you enjoy this episode. All of the show notes, they'll be over at purposedrivenmom.com/podcast 489. So go check them out and Lauren's book if you've enjoyed the conversation. I feel like every time I have an interview, I'm like, selfishly, I wanted to learn things. And why don't you? That was one of the reasons I think I started my podcast all those years ago, was like, I would love to meet and interview all these cool people to learn things I want to learn. And let's see if it helps other people. So I am just so excited for this conversation. I'm excited to learn from you. Can you tell us a little bit about you and your family?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. And I totally relate. I chose my career now, which is as a psychotherapist for moms and women, because I wanted to provide the support I wish I had had. And then I wrote my book, Millennial Menopause, because I was looking for a book just like it and figured I might as well write it. So I appreciate that. I live in New York. I am a mom of two school-aged kids and a puppy who is usually behind me, may make an appearance. And my husband and I have been together for almost 2 decades, and I feel really fortunate that I do what I do because I love connecting with other women.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit about this inspiration to write the book, because I feel that I hear from some people that was mine. I was like, I wanted this resource, it wasn't there, so I created it. Tell me a little bit about your journey to get to that point.
Sure. So I specialize in women's reproductive mental health, and I know a lot about the perinatal period, about fertility. I'm certified in perinatal mental health. I love supporting women in their 20s and 30s. As I was approaching 39, I started to think about what was next. My kids were not infants anymore. I knew my body was changing. I knew that obviously menopause was on the horizon, but I realized I knew nothing about it. And I went to a networking event with this woman named Ann Fullenwider, who is the co-founder of Alloy, a women's telehealth platform. Everyone in the room who was older than I was kept saying things like, I wish I had known, I wish I had been warned, I wish I had had these resources, I wish someone had told me. And I genuinely left that meeting thinking, I've got to tell everybody. It's not just me who's in the dark. Let me make a guide that is relatable, accessible, and expert backed.
So let's talk about the fact that this resource is really not out there. Why do you think this isn't a conversation that's really being had that much?
The cynic in me would say misogyny, ageism, older women are not really valued in our culture. Women are generally told to suck up whatever it is that they're grappling with and not get help for their struggles. And I wanted to kind of flip that on its head and lean into my optimism and say, okay, well, now it's time for change. And the doctors, I don't blame them, but they are victims of essentially not getting access to training or information because in 2002 there was a big study on midlife women that was misinterpreted and hormone therapy was deemed dangerous, and it just escalated very quickly such that an entire generation of medical providers were not taught about this as a resource. But that narrative is shifting, thankfully.
Yeah, I am starting to have more and more conversations with friends of mine. Like I'm the oldest in like all of my friend groups. I notice I'm like I'm the oldest one, and I was like, so they're all looking at me when I'm talking about stuff like this. Like, no, you're not that old, right? There's like this.
Right.
You're not. Why are we talking about this? Like I remember talking to my mom, and she's like, oh no, you're not that like old. You don't have to. And I'm like, wait, no, no, I'm 42. Like
Mhm.
I'm there, but I think we kind of put what menopause is in this box, and it's like I'm gonna pop flashes and lose my period. And then we're like, all right, cool. Like that's what it is. So, we don't talk about it enough. I'm wondering what you think some of the other misconceptions are surrounding this topic of menopause out there for women that maybe it is also getting in our way of having these fruitful conversations.
So I think you're absolutely right. That is the stereotype, or that is what we know. If you Google menopause, you see pictures of more elderly women. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but that's not accurate because perimenopause involves fluctuating hormones that make your body change, make your mindset and mood change, and that period of time can last around 10 years. So if you do the math and the average age of menopause is 51, that means that many women are in perimenopause in their 40s, certainly their early 40s, and many are also in perimenopause in their late 30s. So I think people in our culture get way too bogged down with labels, and that we should focus on how you're feeling and if something is bothering you, what we can do about it. And when we do recognize it as potentially related to our hormones, we're able to get the right treatment, whether it's hormone therapy, lifestyle changes, psychotherapy, or any kind of combination.
So can we talk about that? Because I think the symptoms in particular, there's so many things that I feel like in my late 30s, I was just like, well, I'm tired, right? I think I'm a tired mom, and this is how I
Mhm.
feel, and this is normal. And because there's not as much dialogue as needed about this, we suffer in silence, or we think, well, I'm supposed to just feel like
Yeah.
this, or we don't know. I want to talk about what some common, because I know it varies, symptoms people might be experiencing that they're like, oh, is this it? Like when my doctor validated and was like, yes, you are in perimenopause. I was like, so I'm
Mhm.
not crazy. Yes,
Right,
like we did
right.
hormone testing and they were like, this is what's up. I was like, so it's not just me. Because I
Mhm.
felt like there was something wrong with me, or, you think all these things. So could you school us a little bit on those hormonal and other changes we might be noticing so people can kind of like put their flags up for themselves?
Yeah, and thank you so much for sharing. It's so important to share information because the phrase that you used of, oh, I'm not going crazy,
Yeah.
I have heard that so many times. And I have also met with women who have seen numerous doctors who have been in psychiatric inpatient units, and no one mentioned to them, this might be hormonal. Maybe we should try you on a hormone regimen. And they've been suffering. So even just hearing other people's experiences and knowing they're not alone is so powerful. But I will back up and explain. So, during perimenopause, women's estrogen and progesterone levels are fluctuating and ultimately decline. And that's why hormone tests are not always a reliable predictor of where you are in your reproductive health, because what you test for on a Monday morning might look totally different on a Wednesday afternoon. But when you speak to your doctor, you should be giving all of the symptoms that are new and different for you. Some might not be bothersome, but it's worth noting what's new. So let's talk about some of the common ones. Night sweats and hot flashes are vasomotor symptoms, and they tend to sort of escalate the closer we get to our final menstrual period, which of course is a retroactive thing. You don't know when it's going to be your final menstrual period until a year later. We also see a lot of symptoms that you alluded to that practically every woman in their late 30s, early 40s will say that they experience, which is low libido, fatigue, difficulty concentrating, mood swings, irritability. I hate my husband's chewing, things like that. So, is it perimenopause? Is it stress? It could be both, but it's important to take note and to then say, okay, what's going to help me? Maybe it's sleep hygiene, maybe it's changing your diet, maybe it's medication.
So how do we know if it's just, hey, I'm in a really stressful season
Mhm.
versus all these things are adding up so that we can kind of go and get that support? Because I think a lot of times it's easy to push it under the rug of this is just really stressful right now and I'll handle this later. Later becomes, oh crap, now I'm in it and it's not going so well for me. Like, how can we determine? Is there a way to figure it out?
So, yes and no. To your point of there, we tend to put it last and we brush it off. So many women do that. I can't tell you the number of times I've made all my kids annual dentist, annual doctor's appointments, and I don't do it for myself. And then I say, snap out of it. You got to do it for yourself. We're all guilty of that. But the way that you know, there's not one diagnostic tool. It is a clinical diagnosis. So you speak with a provider who knows what they're talking about, who doesn't dismiss you. And then the point of the label, of the diagnosis, of knowing, yes, I'm in perimenopause, is to then know what your options are. So perhaps you want to try a form of hormone therapy, whether that's in the form of a patch and a micronized progesterone, or maybe go on the birth control pill to see how that works. You try it, you see if it's helping whatever has been bothering you, and you tweak as needed, and then you try something else if you need to. And so it's about the treatment options that basically are driven by the diagnosis.
That's important to know, I think, because it's easy to just say, I'll figure it out later. But if you're noticing changes, if you're noticing things bothering you, like I was sharing with Lauren before I got on, like when I showed up on my physical this year, I was like, here's my list. I'm pretty sure this is what's happening, but I want to do it well. And I was talking to my mom because that was the one thing she asked me. She's like, well, when did your mom go through menopause? And my mom had a hysterectomy when she was like 38, like very
Mhm.
young. And so she's like, so I don't know. And I'm like, I don't know either then. So we're just kind of like figuring all these things out. But we don't have to figure them out alone, right? Like we can make this support system around our doctors, around people. And again, these conversations we're having with other women, I think are really important to
Mhm.
have. And I think also with our family. So I want to talk about that because, like I said, my husband would be like, well, stop saying you're not in that. And I had to be like,
Right.
no, my friend. Like, and my husband's 46, right? So I'm
Mhm.
like, we're here. Like, we're in the middle of
Yeah.
talking about something. Our
Yep.
oldest is 19, is in college. And he was saying something I don't know, about like the old guys something. And I looked at my husband and said, you know, we're the old people now, right? Like that's us. Like I know we don't feel it, right? But like
I
we're
feel that when I play my music and my kids
yes,
are like, ma'am.
yes, it's old timey, as my daughter will say, right? She's like, that's so old timey. I'm like, but somehow we blinked and we're the old people now. I'm
I
like, so we need to
know.
talk about the fact that like this is happening. And it's so fun. So my daughter is 10. And so we're
Mhm.
like in the pre about to get her period phase, I'm pretty sure. So I looked at him and I was like, my dude, you got me going through it and you got him. I was like, you got to get on board. And so we've been having more conversations in our home around with my youngest son, my husband, just we talk about periods. We talk about those things because I don't want her to feel any type of way. And I need the boys to understand as well. And I want my son to like be a good man who like can
Mhm.
support things. So if we're in these phases and we're feeling not well, we're not feeling ourselves, how can we have conversations with our families too to help it become like a conversation we all have, normalize it a little bit more, but also get the support that we need?
I love this question. I also have a son and daughter, and we very much talk about all kinds of bodily functions and stages of health in our family because they are normal. We're humans. And in the book, I tell a funny story about my dog getting her period around the same time that I told my kids I was writing the book about the end of periods. So it was actually such a beautiful moment to say, look, here's a period, this is what it is. And I think we have to just keep doing that. Keep talking about it, make it not embarrassing. Doesn't mean you can't, laugh sometimes when it's lighthearted, but don't laugh at anyone. And I have a chapter in the book dedicated specifically to men in terms of how they can help the women in their lives going through it. Because every woman goes through menopause and every man will know a woman who goes through it. So it's really about being compassionate, being open-minded. If your wife is saying, oh, it's perimenopause, and for whatever reason you don't appreciate that, you can say, well, what about it? And what do you need right now? Are you overstimulated and feeling sensitive? Maybe I can do the dishes in the bedtime routine so you can get some rest. Or maybe you need some help finding a provider who is specializing in this area. So there are so many ways that partners and children can help support women in this space of life.
Yeah, I like that. I was thinking about that with my husband. We talked about it, and he was like in this denial, and I was like, "This is what it is." It's like, and I think a lot of times when we start becoming aware of things, we start changing. It holds this like mirror up to the people around us, and I was like, "Oh, this is me talking about old people stuff is making you realize you're old people too because you're older than me." I was like, "I get what's
Right.
happening now," and I was like, "But now we're on the same page." But we can laugh about like the brain fog is my like biggest symptom. We'll like do read alouds. And I'm looking at a word and I'm trying to say the word and the word is like not and like that so we laugh about that like a lot. They're like, "What are you trying to say?" I'm like, "I don't know." I was like, "I don't know what I'm trying to say." But it's nice because while we can joke about it, I feel like my kids have gotten like a little more patient with helping me remember things and all
Oh,
of that. Yeah,
beautiful.
because we
Yeah.
have to talk about it. Now, I know stress plays a big role in this, and there are some things you mentioned a couple therapies, things we can do. I'm wondering for the mom listening today, if she's like, I'm having some symptoms, I'm having the brain fog, the low libido, I'm having these things. Stress is probably part of that. Are there things that I can do now to help support myself?
I would say work on somewhat low-hanging fruit, but I know that it's challenging to implement good sleep hygiene, good nutritious diets, getting a wide range of your vitamins and nutrients from your actual food, implementing strength training, making sure that you are connecting socially with people who bring you joy, and reducing stress, which of course is much easier said than done, but that's where someone like me as a psychotherapist can come in, work with you on coping strategies for stressors, maybe give you a space to release your tension and emotion and navigate new ways forward to communicate better, etc. And then if you're still feeling not like yourself, which is a very common way that women describe how they're feeling in this phase of life, or you're still really struggling with sleep, or you are getting terrible periods. I've heard them described as murder scenes and they're painful. This is a medical issue that potentially can be treated or alleviated with medicine. And there's lots of tools in our toolbox when it comes to medication. There's SSRIs, which help with mental health if you're feeling depressed or anxious, which up to 70% of women in perimenopause do. There are also hormone therapy options, and it's worth exploring. And every woman deserves a conversation and information about those options.
Yeah, thank you for talking about that because I think a lot of times because we don't know what the options are, we
Mhm.
feel like stuck. And I'm glad you mentioned sleep. I wanted to park there for a second
Yeah.
because this is the hardest one. And I know that there is a sleep hormone connection. Like my sister had a baby, it's 4 months, right? So she
Oh,
was
congrats.
saying, yeah, and she's like, he sleeps well, but they're exhausted. And I just looked at her, and again, my youngest is 8, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember like those days where you're just going on
Brutal.
3 hours, like how? Right? You get through it, but you're like so actually exhausted. So now that I'm at a place where like my kids sleep through the night, right? And I'm like able to sleep, it's now the struggle of I should get to bed earlier, right? Because I want to wake up earlier because I have this time at night for myself, right? Because my kids are going to bed later. Like I'm in a different phase of trying to get sleep. Can we talk a little bit about just the hormone sleep connection? Because I know it on the days I don't get enough sleep, like I'm feeling it even worse, the next day. And just another nudge and encouragement for moms to like go to bed. Like we need to
Go
sleep.
to
Go to bed.
bed.
Yes.
I love sleep so much, and I am really a proponent of it, especially for my postpartum moms, because so many women feel guilty of, oh, I should be doing every feed, or my partner's back at work and I'm not. I think that's BS, and everyone's working, and you have to take turns so that each person gets at least 5 hours consecutively. And while, of course, that's incredibly important during the postpartum phase, it's also very important during perimenopause, which relates hormonally to the fact that our progesterone helps us with falling asleep and estrogen helps us with staying asleep. So when they're wildly fluctuating, and for those who are listening, I'm doing a roller coaster motion because that's what it basically is, you're not getting quality sleep. Now, sometimes these sleep issues during perimenopause can only be alleviated with hormone therapy, but there are lifestyle modifications that we all can and should implement to improve the quality of sleep with or without medicine. So go to bed around the same time every day and also wake up around the same time every day. This doesn't mean you're bad if you don't stick to that, but that's, the general structure that we're aiming for. No screens before bed or in bed. Cool room temperature. That is so key. And for my women with the vasomotor symptoms, it's even more important that we're comfortable. We're not sweating through our sheets. We need it to be cold, dark. And then also when you wake up in the morning, get sunlight in and hopefully fresh air within the first hour. That really helps with our circadian rhythms to set the tone for the day. So it's not just about what you're doing at night, but also what you're doing in the morning.
Yeah, those are good tips. I was finding myself doing the scroll. So
Mm.
it's been almost a month now, and I took all the social media off my phone, and my phone's so boring. I'm like, there's nothing to do. So like I'll read and then I get tired because I'm laying in bed reading, and then I'm actually getting to bed. And I was like, oh, I see how this works, right? Because like it's so hard
Yeah.
to do. But I was at the point, and I think a lot of us get to that point. Like I didn't have enough self-control, even with turning it off and turning the apps off, put the time.
Mhm.
I didn't have enough self-control to do it because I was actually addicted, like so many of us
I
are,
do the
to
same.
dopamine. And it's
Yeah.
so hard. I'm not even gonna lie. Like I found myself at first it was like, let me take TikTok off. And then
Mhm.
that was fine. And then I started scrolling. I don't like Facebook and Instagram. Like I don't find them fun platforms. But then I found something that I could scroll. And then I took the next one and the next one. And then I realized I was scrolling like shopping apps, and I was like, we just got to take
Oh
a
yeah.
like just got to move it. Like so now I've just completely my phone is so boring, and then if I need something, I can install it. But what I'm finding is I'm falling asleep faster. I am one of my symptoms, like in the middle of the night wake ups. Like I'm still waking up in the middle of the night, which used to not happen. That's like a new one for me that I will bring to my appointment next week when I
Yeah.
go. But I am able to fall asleep. So yes, if you still have
Yeah.
all the stuff on your phone, friends, just take
Yeah.
it off. So now that we're opening this conversation and you're like on this mission, like let's talk about it. I want you to tell me a little bit about what you hope for like the future for this new menopause conversation that we can start having, starting with us in the millennial area.
I hope that all people, women, men, however you identify, feel comfortable talking about their health and not having shame and stigma around access to healthcare, around what they're experiencing, and around needing support. And I certainly hope, and it's looking that way, that more and more healthcare providers are getting educated in this so that they can provide the treatment options. But in a lot of ways, this kind of effort is grassroots, meaning coming from the women themselves. So don't be afraid to talk about it. Like even today, my book came out in July and I still get, oh, you wrote about menopause, like from people. And I'm like, yes, I did. Because it's a natural life phase. We shouldn't be ashamed about it. And everyone will go through it differently, but you don't have to go through it alone.
I love that so much. Lauren, this was really fun. Tell us where we can connect with you, where we can get the book. And if you're a Purpose Driven Mom Club member, we will be reading the book on our 2026 book club. So we'll be able to talk about it then. But tell everyone where they can connect with you.
Sure. And it's a really fun book full of pop culture references and more than 4 dozen experts. So I think people will enjoy it and learn a lot. And you can find it at millennialmenopause.com. It will take you to the links wherever books are sold and my website. And you can also connect with me on Instagram as the counselor, but counselor, Laur for Lauren, because we love puns.
I love it. All right. Show notes are going to be over at purposedrivenmom.com/podcast 489. We'll link to all things Lauren, and you can grab the book there. Lauren, thank you for your time today.
Thank you.